that they're not considered criminal anymore. Take the criminal side. Colorado Springs, by the way, is enlightened the way they deal with it, our police force. They view these young girls and young boys sometimes as victims, obviously, not as criminals. But yet, throughout many parts of the country, the average response is you arrest the young girl. We want to make it so that these girls are not viewed as criminals, but we need a law that does it. Colorado Springs is doing it on their own. They're enlightened. But we need a law in the state that says these are victims, that they're not criminals, and we need to get them to the services they need. Because I just, as I said, talking to Karen Hughes in Las Vegas the other day, she said one young girl, 15 years of age, has come through their system 4 different times. 4 times. And so often what's tragic in some of these cases, even if the young girl gets to go back home, there's no home to go back to. And yet, I was talking to some folks in Miami, Miami Bridge. They have a great center for young kids off the street that have had brushes with the law and some other things. And she said a lot of times moms would come there and say, hey, we want our child back. Why? Because they get government aid if their child's there, and then they tell the child to get out of the house. They collect the checks as they come. There's not enough places for these young kids. And so, I think it's so important that we get the kids the treatment that they need. And yet, everything from police forces to whether it's the FBI, Homeland Defense, local agencies that work with victims, there's not enough resources for any of those programs. I mean, that's a reality. And that's why folks like you have to volunteer. You got to give your time, you got to give your money. It's going to take all of us to make a difference here. Not just some of us, all of us. Now, I don't know how long I've got. This is my passion for the rest of my life. I've been very blessed. I've had a great life. I've got to do a lot of great things. I've got a great wife. I say that whether you're here or not, Donna. But it's true. I've been blessed in many ways. But when you've been blessed, and frankly, most of us that have been born in this country have been blessed. Because all you have to do is go to some of these other countries and see the situations that these young kids are in. We've all been blessed. So we need to give something back. And I one time heard a young pastor dealing with this, and he said, some of you have been blessed with money, and if you have, you should give it. Some of you have been blessed with time and energy and ability, and if you have, you should give it. He said, some of you have been given both. And I was in that church, and my wife elbowed me at that moment and said, are you getting the message? I said, I got it. I've got it. So what are some of the other things we can look forward to this coming year? I want you to be aware of this. The Super Bowl coming up. We have partnered with the Attorney General's office in Phoenix, or in Arizona, I should say. Last year we had 50 of the vice officers from Phoenix, where the Super Bowl is this year, brought to DC for training in our offices, in our conference, dealing with this, so that they'd be ready for the Super Bowl. Because it is true, the Super Bowl is maybe the single worst weekend of the year. I always say the Super Bowl is the single worst weekend of the year, except for the 52 weeks every year in Las Vegas. Because that's a reality too, every weekend. But there's going to be some amazing things done. The police are ready. We've got an advertising campaign going on. A lot of things are going to happen. So be watching for the Super Bowl this year. Hopefully we can watch our Broncos win. That'd be good. But regardless who's there, the folks that are fighting domestic sex trafficking are going to be there, folks. And they're on the streets. And they're going to try to be making a difference. So we're going to see some arrests. I hope we see some good prosecutions. Because that will make the front pages. Not only the score, but there'll be the front pages about what's happening, and that's important. A couple other things. Go to the Shared Hope website if you haven't been there. I know many of you have been there, many of you have supported us. Go to Shared Hope. Look at a lot of great training there. If you're interested in getting some great training too, you can go to there's a thing called the Ambassadors. It's very detailed training. It's been redone since some of you may have seen it. Excellent training in this whole field. And so I highly recommend that. Become an ambassador for Shared Hope. That's great stuff. I met with a bunch of ambassadors in Vegas, and they're doing some great work there. And trust me, that's not, as I say, that's not an easy place to do it, but they're doing great work. One other thing, I think there's a lot of men out here. There's more women out here, which isn't unusual. We got to get more of the men here, folks. Guys, we got to bring our friends. You bring your neighbors, bring your brothers, your sons. Get them involved in this fight, because we're not going to beat this problem with just ladies doing it. Not that they're not doing great work, they are. But we need to get the men involved. Get the men involved. And you can, on our website, you can take a pledge, just called the Defender Pledge. And what it does basically, it says, 1, I won't watch pornography. Roughly 70 to 75% of all men watch pornography. I've heard it's as high as 50, 60% of our clergy. So it's a problem, folks. It's a problem. And it's not just young people, it's everybody, a lot of men. So you take the pledge not to watch pornography. You won't go to strip clubs. You won't use prostitutes or domestic, children, anybody. You just don't do that. You don't pay for sex, period. That seems like it should be kind of obvious, but it's not, because men are doing this every day. But you take that pledge as a defender. Every man here should take that pledge. It doesn't take, you don't even have to pay anything. You just take the doggone pledge and send it in. Right on the internet, you can do that. But that's important, because we've got to get the men involved. And you know what's something else more important? Those of you men that are out there, we've got to start to defend those. We've got to really start to defend those that we love. Our wives, our children, our neighbors' kids. We've got to become defenders, folks. That's not passive, that's active. And the men have to do that. We've got to fight for those we love and those in our community. Because if we don't, it won't change. Because men drive this entire industry.
Yes, it does.
And we have got to do it, men. So just to close here, what you're doing is very important. The fact that you took time today to be here on a Saturday, and it's a beautiful day, I noticed. I just want to thank you for that. But what you're doing is very, very important. So don't just let this be, where you show up for one day and feel good about it. Get involved with the Human Trafficking Task Force here in Southern Colorado. They need your help. They need your money. I gave them money today. And that's important. We need to do that type of stuff. We have to. But get involved and tell your friends. Tell your friends that you're involved and why you're doing it. And we can change this world. Thank you.